All right. Well, congratulations. Everybody passed. And let me tell you, that's special because not every class does everybody pass. Okay. We're not in the job of just churning out people so that they can get their license. This is important. And so the fact that everybody in the class passed is a big deal. Okay. So congratulations. You are now professionally trained to ride slowly in a parking lot. Okay. All right. So this is not, and I say that jokingly because this is not the end of your education. This is the beginning of your education. Okay. What you've learned over the last 2 days is to give you the skills needed so that you can start learning. And the biggest thing that I can give you as far as advice for brand new riders is that right now, all of you are at different levels as far as how much of the motorcycle riding is conscious versus subconscious. Conscious means I'm going to go over and pick up Haley's name tag. So I got it. That was conscious. That was a conscious decision. Subconsciously, I walked, I was breathing, my heart was beating. I didn't think about any of that. I probably blinked my eyes and I don't even know it because all of that is subconscious. There's so much of what we do that's subconscious. But what you're doing as a motorcycle rider right now, as a new motorcycle rider right now, is you're thinking, okay, I've got to get going and I got to give it some throttle and I got to ease that on the clutch, but I don't want to ease out on the clutch too fast because I'll stall it, and I don't want to give it too much gas because I don't want to pop a wheelie. And okay, finally got going. That's good. Now I'm going. I got to change gears. Oh shoot, was it push down or pull up? You see what I'm saying? Because you're thinking, and that's okay. That is not okay. It's expected. But what I want you to do is go to large parking lots or church parking lots, somewhere where there's no traffic, and practice until none of this is in your conscious mind. You're not thinking about what you have to do. You can even do this once you go get your endorsement from the DMV, you can even do this in your neighborhood. Go around your neighborhood clockwise and counterclockwise so you get used to stopping at stoplights or stop signs and looking both ways and turning to the left and turning to the right. And I want you to get to the point that you come to a stoplight, you look both ways, you take off and you're shifting gears and you're not even thinking about it. At that point, you're not thinking about it anymore. It's all subconscious. At that point, you can move to a back road. Now we're going to introduce other cars and potholes and animals and 100% of your attention is going to be on those problems or potential problems, not on riding the bike. But you can't tell me that you're going to go on a back road and have 100% of your attention on the road when 60% of your attention is still trying to figure out what gear you're in. Okay? So make this progressive. Start in the neighborhood, start in parking lots, then move up to a back street, okay? And then move up to a secondary street, and then eventually Old 70, 321, and last but not least, an interstate like I-40, which is mind-numbingly boring, okay? Your neighborhood will be more fun than I-40. I-40 is, that's not fun, okay? Neighborhoods and twisty roads and that kind of thing are fun. But you need to make sure that 100% of your attention can be on the road, not on your riding, because those skills have, and so for some of you it'll take a day, for some of you it'll take a week, for some of you it might take 2 or 3 weeks. It won't take that long. And then you'll be riding around, and if I could talk to you in your helmet and say, what gear are you in? I don't know, I'm listening to the engine. Doesn't matter what gear I'm in. You see what I'm saying? Because it's all subconscious, okay? One thing that you might have a problem with, everybody has a problem with it at some point or another, and that is shifting in the wrong direction. Okay, I actually do this probably more than you beginners do, because in motorcycle racing, our shift pattern is backwards. So instead of being 1 down, 5 up, we're 1 up, 5 down. And so I'll be going down the street and I'll be going, bam, bam, and I get the wrong gear. Okay, so you're going to do that too, just because, we just for a moment, we don't think straight and we pull up when we should have pushed down or whatever. So if you're in first gear and the motorcycle's going in first gear, let's just say hypothetically from 0 to 20. And in second gear, you can go from 20 to 40. And then third gear, you can go from 40 to 60. And then you go to shift into fourth because you're already going 60, but instead you go back down to second by mistake. What's going to happen? The bike's going to buck. It's going to feel like you slammed on the rear brake. It's going to go, okay? And it's not going to stall the engine. That's not the problem. It's the fact that the bike, you just put it back into second gear, and the top speed for second gear was 40 miles an hour, but you're already going 60. So it's just like slamming on the rear brake. And the back's going to spin, skid and that kind of thing. What do you do? Because it's going to happen to you. What do you do? Clutch. That's right. Very, very good. Clutch. Clutch, clutch, clutch. Always be thinking, if I'm in trouble, clutch. Okay? Because what you just did was disengage power to the rear wheel. Now you can go, what did I do? Oh, shoot. Okay, I was supposed to be pulling up and I pushed down. Okay, now what gear am I in? Crap, I don't even know what. Let the clutch out real easy and figure out what gear you're in and then keep going. But if you don't pull that clutch in, you're talking down the road, okay? Okay, so pull in the clutch. All right, second problem. Target fixation. There's actually two types of target fixation. Most people only talk about one. The target fixation that most people talk about is you're driving down the road and there's a dead dog in the road. Gross. That's gross. Got to miss the dead dog. I don't want to hit the dead dog. Turn, 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 turn. And you hit the dead dog. Why did you hit the dead dog? Because you're looking at it. That's target fixation. And I mean, you're saying to yourself, miss the dog, miss the dog, miss it, turn, turn, miss the dog. But you can't take your eyes off the dog and you will hit the dog. You'll hit a squirrel. You got a 12-foot lane on most North Carolina roads and you see a dead squirrel and you go, ooh, gross, that's a dead squirrel. And you hit the dead squirrel. That's target fixation. We've talked to you for 2 days about the fact that your bike will go where you're looking, right? Turn that head and the bike will follow. It will do that same thing. You see a big pothole or you see a retread or some other problem or in the road and you look at that problem for very long and you'll hit the problem. So what do we want to look at? The not problem.
Look beyond the problem.
You can look beyond it, but you still might hit it. What'd you say? Escape path. We want to find the escape path. I don't care if it's a 17-point buck that's 6 foot wide, dead in the road. On a 12-foot road, you've still got 6 foot, 3 feet on either side or 4 foot on one side. You've got room. Look at the escape path. Decide which way is your best escape path. And look at the escape path, you'll hit the escape path. Look at the problem, you'll hit the problem. Now, the lesser known type of target fixation is when you're entering an intersection or a curve or something like that, and there are multiple issues that you might have to deal with. You're entering an intersection and this guy's coming up and you're thinking that he's going to stop at the red light, but you're not sure. There's another one already stopped, but he might be turning right on red, which means he's going to turn right out in front of you. This guy's coming this way, but he's got his blinker on, so he's in the turning lane to turn across in front of you. And this guy beside you is coming up pretty fast. You're thinking, why is he coming up behind me so fast? And so you're looking, and if you say, okay, I think he's my problem, and you look at him, you do so at the exclusion of everything else. And then all of a sudden you realize he's not the problem. He is going to get stopped in time. That guy is not going to turn right on red. This guy over here is going to turn left right in front of you. But you're not seeing him because you're fixated over here. So what we want to do in situations like that, in curves and in intersections, is we're glancing and scanning. We're taking note of all the different things that could be an issue. And we're looking to see, but we're constantly looking and scanning to see who might be moving, what might be an issue. Don't focus on one problem because then it excludes in your vision. You'll still see it in your peripheral vision, but your peripheral vision does not pick up motion very quickly. Okay? If I'm looking at something, and I'll tell you a true example in a minute about a car that pulled out in front of me, and I was watching his front tire, and his front tire went and I hit the brakes. Okay. If I was looking at this problem over here, his tire would go burp, and he would move several feet before I could go, oh, you see what I'm saying? He's in my path of travel. So peripheral vision just doesn't pick up motion as quickly. So don't fixate on one issue. Always be scanning the intersection. Okay? So those are some basics. The more important things are coming up, and that is lane positioning. This, not to be over melodramatic, I really don't think this is dramatic. This is life or death. Your lane choice on a street bike is life or death. Okay? And I'll explain why. In the E-course, it talked about the fact that you could divide any lane into 3 parts, LP1 or lane position 1, lane position 2, lane position 3. Remember that? Okay? So this is one lane. This is your fog line. This is the solid white line that's on the right-hand side so that if it's foggy or snowy or somebody blinds you with their headlights, you can kind of look down and sort of know, kind of where you're at in the lane based on that fog line, okay? This is the dotted line. It could be a dotted line and a solid line or two solid lines, whatever, if it's a no passing zone. But you understand that this is just one lane. So if this was a two-lane road, I'd have one lane going this way and another lane on the other side of this dotted line going that way. If it's a four-lane road, then I'd have two lanes going this way, still divided by a dotted line. So you understand? Within that one lane, I can get lane position 1, lane position 2, and lane position 3. And there's a lot of talk about where you should be in certain circumstances, and it's almost like in order to be politically correct, we have to have the same amount of reasons for being in LP1 and LP2 and LP3 because you don't want anybody left out. We don't want LP2 to be offended. I'm telling you, and this is my opinion, matter of fact, this whole video are things that I have, information that I've gleaned from 39 years of writing, and so you have to make your own decisions. I'm not telling you what you can and cannot do. I'm telling you what you should and should not do, okay? For liability purposes, I probably need to say that on camera anyway. But I'm telling you that it is my opinion that there is never a time in your motorcycle life ever that you need to be in LP2. No good. No good comes from the middle of the lane. Several reasons. I'm going to give you 4 reasons. One, if you've ever looked at a road that's been paved for any amount of time, there's a dark streak down the middle of the lane. What is that dark streak? It's diesel fuel and oil and automatic transmission fluid and glycol, which is super slick, which is what antifreeze is made out of. It's gasoline. All that dark streak I call the slime line. Do you want your tires on that slimy stuff? Do you want that soaking into your tire? No, you do not. So reason one, stay off the slime line. And I see riders out there who have ridden for decades who still ride down the middle of the lane because in their mind, they feel like, oh, I've got a margin of error on either side. So I'm going to go right down the middle. What they don't take into consideration is what I'll explain to you in just a minute. That margin of error doesn't need to be there because at high speeds, you cannot swerve fast enough to use the margin of error. But that slime line will always make you wreck. If you hit the brakes too hard on the slime line, you're going down, period. Your wheels will lock up so fast compared to regular pavement. So stay off the slime line. That's one. 2, the second reason I don't want you in LP2 is because I want you to be in the tire tracks of the vehicle in front of you. Always be in the tire tracks of the vehicle in front of you. When I first started riding 39 years ago, I wasn't allowed to have a street bike growing up and that kind of thing. So when I got married and got out on my own, I bought myself a motorcycle, and I rode it everywhere, and I didn't know what the heck I was doing. And there wasn't a class like this back then that I know of. And so I had lunch with my wife on exit 128 of I-40, okay, she worked at a bank. And so I'm going home after lunch on I-40 as a newbie, okay? Riding right down the middle of the lane because nobody had told me about the slime line, and I'm thinking in my mind, I got a margin of error on either side, okay? I was in the left lane. The right lane was multiple cars. Left lane did too. There's 4 or 5 in front and 4 or 5 behind me. And the car in front of me moved over about 18 inches. And out from under that car comes a 6x6 landscape timber about 5 foot wide. It's just about the size of that rostrum right there, a 6x6. Flipping, and sliding down the road. It had been dropped off of a landscape truck 4 or 5 vehicles up. I didn't even see it come off the truck. So what did all the cars do? Straddled it. I'm in the middle of the lane. I drilled it. Because there's no swerving at 70 miles an hour. Remember the drill that you guys did yesterday and today where we swerve and stop? Okay, and what we're trying to teach you is that you swerve and stand back up and then stop while your handlebars are square. Okay, so swerve, stop. That is great in a parking lot when you're going through a parking lot and somebody just backs out into you and you swerve and stop and then you wave at them with at least one finger, preferably more, and you just saved yourself an accident because you were able to swerve and stop. That does not work at 70 miles an hour. In the E-course, it talked about how many feet per second we're traveling at any miles per hour. Does anybody remember the math on that? How can we figure how many feet per second we're covering when we are traveling? Yes?
That's your mile an hour times 1.5.
Yes, miles per hour times 1.5. If I am going 70 miles an hour, folks, I was traveling at 105 feet per second. 105 feet. I was not 105 feet from that car. There's no swerve and stop at 70 miles an hour. And I drilled that thing. I hit it. Now, multiple things should have happened that day. All of them result in me dying. Okay? If I hit this piece of wood with this sharp corner and it cuts my tire and I go up in the air, which I did, I went way up in the air, and then I land on metal rims, do you think I can save that? No. If it hit the corner of that wood and bent the rim, and all of the air went out of the tire, and I land on a bent rim, it still has rubber around it, but it's bent, do you think I can save it? No. If I just hit the piece of wood and go up in the air and the wheels are magically okay, and I land and I wobble and I go down at 105 feet per second, do you think that the car behind me can stop before it runs over me? No. Do you understand why this is such a big deal to me? I should have died that day. There's any number of reasons why I should have died that day, but there was no good outcome for that day. Except for the fact that God just wasn't ready to take me home yet. I hit that piece of wood and I'm on a Honda, it's my very first motorcycle, Honda 750 Sabre. And I hit that piece of wood and I went up in the air. The lady behind me, because traffic, and a lady pulled off to see if I was okay. And she said, I ain't never seen anybody jump a street bike that high. Lady, I wasn't trying to be evil Knievel. I was trying to not die. I go up in the air. I do know this. I don't know how high I was. I don't know if I was this high or I don't know what. I know this. When I landed, I hit so hard that when the shocks bottomed out, the metal dash bracket broke off the triple clamp. And I landed it. I do not have the skill to land this. I'm not Evel Knievel. I landed it, maintained control, neither tire blew, neither rim bent, and I got off to the side of the road where I promptly had a nervous breakdown, thinking about what should have happened and what could have happened. Okay? If I would have wobbled and gone into this lane, they can't stop. If I'd have wobbled and gone down in this lane, they couldn't stop. I would have been hit by a car. I would have been run over. There's just no good outcome for this. And so what happens in our mind is anytime we have a tragedy. Now, if you will listen to this, not just about motorcycles, you'll find, oh, you know what? John was right. I never thought about that. That's exactly what we're... In your mind, when there's a tragedy, your brain has to come up with a reason for the tragedy and how it can be avoided. Otherwise, the brain will never let go of it. So when there's a crash, you go, dadgum, that drunk driver. They shouldn't be letting drunk drivers out on the road because it was a tragedy and an innocent person got killed. But we have to blame it on somebody because otherwise we'd say, you know what, I'm just parking my car at the house. You never know when it's going to happen to me. And so I'm struggling with that in this moment. I'm thinking, that thing came right out from behind that car and there was nowhere I could go. And this is just, if motorcycle ride's just a crapshoot and you don't know if today's the day you're going to die, I don't think I want to do that sport. So I'm talking to some friends of mine and they went, why were you in the middle of the lane? And that's when I learned about the slime line. I said, well, what would you want me to do? And they said, you always ride in the tire tracks of the car in front of you. And when that car moves, so do you. You're following a car and it moves 18 inches. You move 18 inches. It moves this way, you do too. But you're in the tire tracks of the vehicle in front of you. Do you know, I don't have a number, Do you have any idea how many things I've hit? 39 years I've been riding on the street. 39 years. Do you know how many things I have hit on the street since that day when I nailed that big piece of wood? Zero. 39 years, zero. I have missed hundreds of things. Cooler lids and frisbees and those big black retreads that come off of truck tires and potholes and roadkill. In front of Appalachian on Highway 321, there was an 8-foot piece of pipe laying diagonally right in the middle of the lane. I had one of my coaches on I-77 coming back from a family reunion, and he said the car in front of him moved over a little bit, and they were straddling an extension ladder. He said, I straddled it too. He said, then I looked in my rearview mirror and said, please God, don't let there be a motorcycle behind me. Could you imagine hitting an extension ladder on the highway at 70 miles an hour? There's no good outcome for that. But nothing have I hit in 39 years, because when that car in front of me, I'm in his tire tracks. I am in his tire tracks. And when he moves, so do I. Okay? That one thing alone has kept me from hitting so many. I was on 321 the other day, and there was a piece of baseboard. Not this kind, the decorative kind that comes out of a house. And on either end, it had like 3 or 4 nails sticking up, and it was laying nails up in the middle of the road. Somebody, I'm assuming, was doing home improvements, pried it off the wall, threw it on the truck, and they're going to take it to the dump. It never made it to the dump, and it flipped off and landed in the road. Do you know what happens at 60 miles an hour if you hit 4 or 5 nails at a time? That's a bad day. You see what I'm saying? But I've hit nothing because I stay in the tire tracks of the vehicle in front. Matter of fact, even if there's not a vehicle in front of me, I'm still in LP1. Now, if it's a 4-lane highway, just so you know, I don't know that this matters, but if I'm in LP1 and I'm going to pass a car and I make a lane change, I just go to LP3. So a lane change for me is like this far. Okay, this is the dotted line. I go from here to here. That's a lane change. Okay, because I want, and in my opinion, I do have a margin of error over here and a margin of error over here. And if I go to here, then I have a margin of error there and over here. So I still feel like I've got a safety margin in case I need it, but swerving is not what the safety margin is for. It's for an escape path in case something bad's happening up ahead. Now, that brings me to the third reason that we do not want to be in LP2. The third reason is we need to be able to see multiple cars, 4 or 5, 6 cars ahead of us. If you've ever driven in traffic in Charlotte, Gastonia, any of the big cities where you have like 4 or 5 lanes going in both directions and everybody's flying, and you feel like everybody's, shoulders, and then all of a sudden everybody just comes to a screeching halt. And you slam on your brakes, and sometimes you have to skid off to the side of the road to keep from hitting this guy, and then you're praying that the guy behind you don't hit you, and your heart's going, whoo. And again, the brain says, wow, that could have been really bad. How do I fix that next time? That's what our brain does. How do I keep that from happening again? I don't like that. That was really dangerous. How do I stop that from happening again? And the way you stop that from happening again is you will start to drive in heavy traffic like that, not looking at the guy in front of you. You're looking at taillights 6 and 7 cars up. And when you start seeing a sea of red taillights, you're putting the brakes on now. I ain't waiting for the guy right in front of me. Right? We need to be looking 6 and 7 cars up. How are you going to look 6 and 7 cars up from here? Like through his windshield? No. But from here, I can see past him 6 and 7 cars up. And when I start seeing people swerve or tail lights come on, I'm backing off and I'm looking for an escape path just in case I need it. Okay? So 1, we don't want to be on the slime line. 2, we want to stay in the tire tracks of the vehicle in front of us. 3, we want to be able to see past the vehicle in front of us so that we can see what's going on 12, 15 seconds ahead. And fourthly, when I come to a stop behind a vehicle, I will come in. I'm already in their tire tracks. I'm going to come in and park at a little bit of an angle. And I'm going to sit there and do that. I've already stopped. So what am I doing? Making my tail light flash. And if the guy behind me comes in hot because he's not seeing me, it is a very short trip from there, boop, to there. What I don't ever want is to be smashed between this guy and this guy. Do you realize that based on which report you read, between 4,000 and 6,000 times a year on American roads alone, motorcyclists stopped at an intersection get hit by cars? 4,000 to 6,000 times a year. You're not doing anything wrong. You're sitting at the stoplight. Bam! From behind. Why is that? How can that even be so? Why do I even need to blink my tail light? Because there's the thing in the e-course that talked about it, and it is a word that I had never heard before until I started coaching, and now I love it because it explains so much to me about what we have to be aware of. And the word is inattentional blindness. Not unintentional, inattentional blindness. Inattentional blindness is like when my wife says, "Hey, John, if you'll grab the mayonnaise, I'll make you a tomato sandwich." Because I love tomato sandwiches. And so she's going to make me a tomato sandwich. That's weird. It's not that big of a refrigerator. And I moved the mayonnaise to look for it. Have you done that? Of course you've done that. Everybody's done that. It might not be mayonnaise, it might be something else. That is the definition of inattentional blindness. It's not that you're not looking. You're looking for the mayonnaise. Your brain doesn't see it. For some reason, it's turned, the label looks a little different, they've changed the color of the jar, and you move the mayonnaise to look for it. So what's happening on the roads today, and the reason that we have so many tragic stories, are that cars are looking for this. They're looking for other cars or trucks or buses with hoods and grills and headlights and bumpers, and that's what their eye is looking for. And you look like that. And they don't see you. You're the mayonnaise that they look right past. And no amount of bumper stickers that say, "Look for motorcycles, they're everywhere. Be careful, motorcycles are everywhere." No amount of bumper stickers or public service announcements are going to stop people from having inattentional blindness. It's not anything that they can help. Their brain is looking for something similar to what they're driving, and they don't see the motorcycle. So what happens in intersections is, I know that that wall there represents a car that has stopped. So I'm coming in at 60 miles an hour and I'm braking just enough so that I stop 2 or 3 feet from that car, right? Right. So you come in and you stop 2 or 3 feet from that car, and this next SUV is coming in. He sees that car too. And he's going to stop 2 or 3 feet from that car, and he gets about here and he realizes, "Oh crap, there's a motorcycle between me and him." And you get crunched between 2 cars 4,000 to 6,000 times a year on American roads alone. Okay? So if we know that inattentional blindness is the problem, then what is the solution? If we can't stop them from pulling out in front of us, if we can't stop them from hitting us, if we can't make them see us by wearing some big bright yellow helmet with a mohawk on it, what can we do? Because it's our lives at stake. And this is what we do. We ride as if we are invisible. When you go get your endorsement from the DMV and you get that little M on your driver's license, you get a new superpower and you are invisible. Ride as if you are invisible. You cannot ride your motorcycle the same way you ride in your car, because we all ride in our cars in a semi-state of consciousness. We're thinking about the argument that we had at the house, and we're telling that boss off when we get to work, and all that's going through. And in the meantime, we're changing the radio station, and we're just kind of, and we're just not even, and nobody's pulling out in front of us. If somebody pulls out in front of you in a car, 99% 999 times out of 100, where a car pulls out in front of you, they either misinterpreted the stoplight or something else happened, because when they look side to side, they see a car. They might pull out in front of you close because they're rude and they want to jump out in front of you, which I hate that. Jump out in front of me, then go slow. Thank you very much. But it's not like I have to slam on the brakes to try to get stopped. Rarely does anybody pull out in front of me so close that I have to slam on the brakes to get stopped. They'll just pull out too close because they're rude and they can't wait 2 seconds for me to pass, right? But rudeness is not what we're talking about. On a motorcycle, they will pull right out in front of you. So we end up driving around in our cars half awake, half aware, half alert, because nobody's pulling out in all the years I've driven. Nobody's pulled out in front of me, right in front of me before. So because they see me, that's not the case with motorcycles. And you need to understand that. They're going to pull right out in front of you. So you have to take responsibility and know that you are invisible. Ride as if you are invisible. Real world story. This happened to me. It's a real story. I'm not making this stuff up. But it is an example of exactly what we're talking about. I was coming to work on my Pan America, and I'm running down 321 at 60 miles an hour, unless you're a police officer, and then I was going exactly 55. And there's a road that crosses 321 in Granite Falls called Cedar Valley Road, and it comes up before you get to the new McDonald's, and it comes up to the 4-lane, and then people jump the first 2 lanes, and they stop in the median, then they jump the next 2 lanes or turn or whatever. And so I see this guy come up Cedar Valley, and he stops, and nobody was coming, so he jumped to the median. And I know I'm invisible to him. If I was in a car, I would think nothing of that. I just drive. No, I would never think anything of that. Because there's a 0.0001 chance that he might pull out in front of me because he doesn't see me because he's legally blind or something. But I know I'm on a motorcycle and I'm invisible to him. And so I see him. And the first thing I did was I checked my mirrors because I need to know how many people are in this lane in case I need to swerve and how close are the people behind me. Click it off cruise control and put my hands on the clutch and the brake and put my foot up on the brake pedal. And I'm watching him and he's looking right at me. So this is a good day. Generally speaking, it's a good day. When they're looking right at you, that's a good day. At that intersection in Granite, there's a deceleration lane that's about 90 feet, from best I can measure, about 90 feet long. He waited till my front tire got to that deceleration lane and pulled straight out in front of me. I'm going 60 miles an hour. How many feet per second am I traveling? 90 feet per second. I saw, my hands are already on the controls. I see him, and I saw that front wheel go, burp, and I went, Somewhere during me braking hard, he sees me, his eyes get about this big, and he slams on the brake. Now, his front bumper's on the dotted line, and his rear bumper's on the fog line, and there is no place for me to go. Do you know what happened? Nothing. I stopped. No big deal. I didn't hit him, didn't touch him. Wasn't even that close. I didn't have to go home and change my underwear. I came on to work that day and never even told anybody about it. Because why? Because it was not a big deal. He pulled right out in front of me, and I stopped. I knew that the cars behind me weren't so close that they were going to run over me. They hit their brakes pretty hard too when they saw this happen, and so they never hit me, and I never hit him. But in the e-course, we talk about that there are 3 parts of total stopping distance. Can anybody tell me what the 3 parts of total stopping distance were from the e-course? Perception, reaction, and braking. What does that look? And there's a picture on the e-course, a little picture of how long it takes the average motorcyclist to stop. Do you remember what the picture was? Football field. A football field? Well, that's 300 feet. How on earth can it take 300 feet to stop a motorcycle from 60 miles an hour? Here's how. You're driving your motorcycle kind of like you drive your car, and something happened. You go, oh crap! or substitute crap for some other non-preacher approved word. That oh crap moment for the average person with good reflexes was 0.75 to 1 second. How far did I go in 1 second? 90 feet. After oh crap, you go, I got to do something, grab the controls. On the average person who is a good motorcycle driver, that took between 1 and 1.25 seconds. Another 90 feet. And we haven't even hit the brakes yet. Do you realize that the North Carolina Highway Patrol and the the Department of Transportation Safety Highway Board and all that stuff, when they look at these accidents, do you realize that in the vast majority of motorcycle accidents where the motorcycle hits a car that pulled out in front of them, there are no black marks? No black marks? How can there not be black marks? How could the motorcyclist not be locking it down before he hits the car that pulled out in front of him? Because he never got past perception, reaction. He never squeezed the lever. Because nobody pulls out in front of you and gives you 180 feet. Nobody pulls out in front of you and gives you a football field. So how do we protect ourselves against people who are doing that? And he was not blind. He was not stupid. He was not an idiot. He wasn't even in a hurry trying to get ahead of me. He pulls up, he looks over, and he sits there for a minute because I'm looking in his eyes, and he's gauging how fast that car's coming. Do I have time to pull out in front of that car? I do. Excuse me, there's a problem. I'm between you and that car. He never saw me. Inattentional blindness. And so he just pulls right, and then he sees me, and it's too late. So what can we do? If we ride as if we are invisible, we can eliminate both perception and reaction. All we have to do is stop the bike. And that's what I did that day. I saw him come across, and I said, I'm invisible. That's perception. This could be a problem. Let me go ahead and put my foot and my hand on the brake and my other hand on the clutch, and I'm going to be looking him in the eye. That is reaction. And as soon as I saw his tire rotate, from 60 miles an hour to 0, wasn't even close. Because I knew that I was invisible. So here's what that's going to look like in a real world. Hundreds of times a year, quite possibly hundreds of times a year, based on how many miles you ride. You're going to go, oh, there's a dog. Okay. He stopped at the ditch. Good dog. Whoa, that guy is going to pull out in front of me. He doesn't. He saw me. Thank you, sir. Appreciate that very much. Whoa, hang on. Okay. I thought he was going to turn left in front of me. Thank you, sir. Appreciate that. 100 times. 100 times you're going to perceive and react. 100 times you're going to say, that could be a problem. Oh, thank God it wasn't. 100 times you say, they could pull out in front of me, but they didn't. But there's going to be 2 or 3 times a year that you go, because they did pull out in front of you. And it's going to be a non-issue because you eliminated perception and reaction, and you didn't hit the guy that pulled out in front of you, and you don't have to go home and change your underwear either. That is the only way that we can take responsibility for ourselves. No amount of bumper stickers saying, look out for motorcycles, they're everywhere, will overcome inattentional blindness. Inattentional blindness, we can't even fight it. So what we have to do is we have to take responsibility for our riding, and that means you're going to be hyper alert. None of this driving like you do your car. You're hyper alert. And it sounds exhausting, but it's really not. It's not exhausting at all. You're alive. You're alert. You're not thinking about what was happened at the house. You're not thinking about what's going to happen at work. You're riding and you are alive. And what sounds to be exhausting is really not. Some days, the ride to work or from work is the best 30 minutes of my day. Really. But I'm alert. And I'm always looking. I'm always anticipating because I know that I'm invisible. All right. Next thing, we're going to change gears a little bit here metaphorically, and we're going to talk about the lane position in a curve. Okay. Now, in my opinion, Well, this is my opinion. In my opinion, I only concern myself with right-hand turns. Left-hand turns, I'm going to come into the left-hand turn in lane position 1, and I'm going to follow lane position 1 all the way around. Rarely does anyone coming this way fade out. But multiple times, you'll be making a right-hand turn and somebody in this lane comes in a little hot and they fade into your turn. Have you seen that? We've all seen that. Okay? So what happens in that situation is that you will, as a new rider, unless you're extremely experienced, you're going to panic. When you panic, your brain is going to say either roll off the throttle or touch the brake. When you roll off the throttle, it's the same thing as touching the brake. If you're riding, even in the parking lot, when you're riding, when you roll off the throttle, what does the bike do? Right? Because the engine starts slowing you down, and it's the same feeling as if you touch the brake. Now, let me ask you this. Actually, I'm not going to ask you this. I'm going to explain this to you because people don't understand why curves are such a problem. We cannot hit our brakes in a curve. Okay? Most people think that it's because when the tire is leaned over, you don't have as much contact patch on the tire. That is wrong. Okay? Motorcycles are designed so that the curvature of the tire, the arc of the tire, will match the maximum lean angle of the motorcycle. So on a front tire that's being pressed down by the weight of the person and the weight of the motorcycle, even a tire this narrow, you will have a contact patch about the size of 2/3 of a credit card. Your back tire will have a contact patch just slightly larger than a credit card. So if I've got 2/3 the size of a credit card when I'm straight up and down, and I go to full lean angle, how much of the tire is still touching the road? Same. 2/3 of a credit card. It's not the contact patch that's the problem. So what is the problem? We know from physics class in high school that anything that is in motion is going to stay in motion unless something of equal or greater value pushes it off of its course. So you throw a ball, apart from strings and airflow wanting to make a curved ball or something, you throw a ball that's going to go straight. You roll a ball that wants to go straight unless there's something that pushes it off course. So if I've got, let's just say, for example, I've got 10 units of traction on my motorcycle. There's 1,000 variables. You understand the type of road, the type of tire, the age of the tire, the air pressure in the tire, the type of the rubber, the temperature outside. Okay, let's just say, for the sake of argument, I've got 10 units of traction. And I'm coming down 321. By the way, do you think that day that guy pulled out in front of me, had I been in the slime line, do you think I would have had a snowball's chance in Hades of getting stopped? No. No. So I reiterate the first reason not to be in the middle of the lanes because you don't want to be on the slime line. Anyway, so I've got 10 units of traction. Somebody pulls out in front of me. How many of those units of traction? Front and back brake. How many units of traction can I use to get stopped? 10. That's how much traction I've got, 10. But now I go down the road a ways and I'm in a curve. I'm pushing the inside bar and I'm going through the curve. Does the bike want to go through the curve? Where does the bike want to go? Straight ahead. Matter of fact, Tyler is in a really, really bad spot. He really trusts Kyle Wyman because Kyle Wyman, if Kyle loses traction at this moment, is his motorcycle going to continue to slide around the curve? No. It's going to go back to the straight line that inertia says that it should be on. If he loses traction, he's going to take him out like a bowling pin. So our tires are forcing the bike to go in an arc that it doesn't want to go. It wants to go straight. Now all of a sudden, we've still got 10 units of traction. But 6 of them are being used to force the bike into the turn. Now how much braking can I do? Yeah, a whole lot less. And the smallest contact patch is on the front wheel because it's not as wide as the back wheel. So that means I'm in a turn and I get spooked because I'm in this turn and somebody in an SUV is 2 or 3 feet into my lane and I go, oh crap, and I roll off the throttle and touch the brake. I tuck the front and slide right under the very thing that I'm afraid of. Again, what do we do? Is this just a death trap that we can't control? We're just going to looking for a place to die? No. We have control over so much of this. And in this situation, I'm going to enter this turn in lane position 1. I'm going to apex the turn at lane position 3 and float back out to lane position 1. And this does 2 things for me. One, if you look at the arc of the road versus my arc is much more gradual, which means that if I get into the turn a little bit too hot, I'm less likely to lose traction because I'm not taking an arc that is as sharp as the road. The other thing, the bigger thing, is that about the middle of this turn, I realize this jackwagon and his big SUV is about 4 feet in my lane. I'm already as far away from him as I can get. I'm already in my turn. I'm already pushing on the inside bar, and I just stay on the throttle. Don't roll off. Don't touch the brake. I'm as far away from him. He could come 6 or 8 feet inside my lane, and I would still miss him. No need to panic. Nothing good comes out of panic. So I go to here. I'm apexing in LP3. He can be in my lane all he wants to, and it's not even going to spook me. And then I'll just fade back out to 1 and go on our way. Does that make sense? Now, again, this only applies in right-hand turns. Left-hand turns, I'm just going to stay LP1 all the way around because I've really never had anybody come from the inside the lane and float out. I'm sure it happens. I've personally never had that to happen. So, stopping in a curve, we have less traction because so much of the traction is being used to make the bike follow the turn. So if we have to stop, that's what we taught you in the class. If we have to stop because there's something big in the road or there's a car broke down there, we need to be standing it up and braking so we get back to 10 units of traction. Now, as you get more experienced, you will say, oh, crap, and then you'll start squeezing as you come up, but you're not going to do hard braking until you're straight up and down and square because you need to get all the way back to 10 units of traction. Does that make sense? That's why you're in a straight line again. We taught you that. You go into the curve, and you stand it up straight, but you're braking in a straight line. Okay, so just be aware of that in a curve because if you roll off the throttle or hit the front brake, you will most likely tuck the front and you will quite possibly hit the very thing that you are afraid of. Okay? Last thing, I guess, one of the last things is something that they taught me when I was racing that I'd never thought about before. The reason I went into racing was because I was riding like a fool on the street. And I don't know if you know, on the bottom of foot pegs on motorcycles, there's like a little replaceable bolt. And so when you lean over, it touches the ground and sparks fly, and you know, okay, I'm about maximum lean angle for this bike, you know. I would just wear those things down to nubs and go into the dealership and buy new ones, and you know. And they're going, dude, you shouldn't be doing that on the street. I know what I'm doing. I know how to ride. Yeah, but the street's no place for that. I know what I'm doing. So anyhow, after getting hurt a couple times and having a couple crashes on the street, and one of which I should have died, I said, okay, fine, but I'm too old to do racing. So they said, and one of the guys at the dealership that day said, hey, I've got a track bike. He said, you've already got leathers. He said, you can use my track bike. Let's just go do a track day. He said, I'll take the advanced class and you can take the intermediate class. He said, we'll just take turns on the bike. I said, really? Yeah, that sounds pretty cool. So I went to my first track day and then I was hooked, and then the story gets a lot longer after that because I loved it. I thought I was fast on the street. I suck on the street compared to the track is so much faster. But what they taught us in that class has stuck with me all these years. And they said this: rarely does anybody die from crashing a motorcycle. Almost never. And I went, what? I know plenty of people that have died. I go, no. They don't die from the crash. They die from what they hit. No, I did that. Oh, yeah, I guess you're right. And then I thought, okay, funny, play on words, And then I went home. And as a couple of days later, I took my street bike out for a ride down my street, the street that I had been down 1,000 times before. And all of a sudden, as I'm driving down the street, I'm going, holy cow. There's a telephone pole there with a guide wire there and a fire hydrant there and a mailbox there and a mailbox here and a phone thing there and another mailbox there and another telephone pole there and there's a signpost right there. And then I realized, on my own street that I had been down 1,000 times before, there's no place that I can crash that I'm not going to hit something. There's no place that you're going to crash, that you can crash. Racetracks have these big, long runoff areas and that kind of thing, and we crash all the time because we're trying to push it as hard as we can push it. And we flip and we tumble, but we don't hit anything. Get back up and do it again that afternoon. But on the street, it's deadly. And I tell you that because of this. If you want to race, go to a track day. If you want to cut up and be crazy, I love it. Go do it. It's well worth the money. But do it at a track. Don't do it on the street, because on the street, there's almost no place that you can go down that you won't hit something, and it's the something that will cut you in half. Whether it be a guardrail or a fire hydrant or a mailbox or whatever. Okay? Which brings me to another point, and that is always, always, always be leery of anybody being to the left of you. Okay? If they are to the left of you and they realize, oh, that's my exit, they go, inattentional blindness, they don't see you, and they will cut you out. If their car breaks down, for whatever reason, they want to get on this side of the road, they'll come across you to get to the shoulder of the road with a flat tire or whatever, and they'll take you out. Since I've worked here, 2 of our fitters, and these guys know how to ride, 2 of them have been taken down by left lane lunatics who were going down the road. One of them was in Granite Falls on my exit. I'm going home one night, and there's Blake in the triangle in the grass down there. So I said, what the heck? Car's going down the left lane, goes, oh, that's my exit. And takes the exit and took his front tire with it and never stopped. Why? Because they didn't see him in their blind spot. That didn't even register on a 6,000-pound car. They never felt that. That was his front wheel hitting their bumper. He goes down, they go home. Don't even realize they did it. See what I'm saying? Happened to another guy in my production manager, back when I had my own company, my production manager was coming up through Lenore in his pickup truck, and there was a guy on a Harley in front of him, and we're coming up to where Lowe's Hardware is, and there's a road that shoots off that goes to Whitnall. And there's a sign that shows the divided road, with a little tiny signpost. And somebody comes up through there and goes, oh crap, that's my road. And they took the road. And they took the guy's wheel out. That came right across. And they kept going. He slid from about here to that wall, and he hit that signpost. He never heard the ambulance. He died in Danny's lap. Not from the crash, from what he hit. Technically, that's hit and run. But what happened was that guy goes, oh, that's my exit. Oh boy, I about missed that thing. And they never heard that. And they go on home and they have dinner with their family. This guy will never go home to his. Be aware of anyone to the left of you. But be aware anyway. We never want to be in anybody's blind spot. I've been driving cars for a long time, and I look back. I do a head check. I don't even trust my mirrors, and so I look in the mirror, and then I look back, and then go to do a lane change, and I hear, oh shoot, what? Who? Oh crap! There they are, right there. Right? I looked in the mirror, I did a head check, still didn't see them, and I go to change lanes and they blow their horn at me. If I can miss a 6,000-pound car in my blind spot, you don't think they can miss a 600-pound motorcycle? Of course they can. So do we blame it on them for the rest of our lives? No. We take responsibility and do not ride anywhere close to anybody's blind spot, especially if they're to our left. If they're coming up to me and they're passing me and I'm anywhere close to an interchange, I will back off. Just go ahead. Just go ahead. In case you decide to take that exit ramp, I do not want to be anywhere close to you. And I will just back off. I'm going to speed up later. But I will not let them be in a position where they can take me out from the left-hand lane. Okay? All right. The last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to share with you 4 percentages that came from the National Transportation Safety Highway Board in 2023. The National Transportation Safety Highway Board does a spreadsheet of every wreck, but they have one for motorcycles. For every wreck on American roads, on motorcycles in 2023, and I got the report latter part of 24, so I haven't got 24s yet. So hopefully I'll get that soon. And these are some statistics that I think are important. I'm not trying to bore you with statistics, but this is a big deal. 49.963 is about as close to 50% as you can get. 50% of all motorcycle wrecks in America had one thing in common. Now, if you're going to be a conscientious motorcycle rider, would you not want to know what that one thing was? Intersection. What'd you say? Anybody else? Intersections. Anybody else? In America, out of all the motorcycle wrecks in America in 2023, 50% of them had no other vehicle involved. That's what I did. What? Really? 50% of all motorcycle wrecks in America had nobody else involved. That means you can't blame it on the car pulling out in front of you. You can't blame it on the dog that ran out in front of you. You can't blame it was you. Quit riding like a fool. 50% of the time. We so desperately want to blame this on somebody else. But 50% of the time, it's us. Now, the next 3 take on a higher level of significance because they resulted in death. Okay? And just in case you're questioning my math abilities, yes, I understand that this equals more than 100%. That's because they were doing this and this, or this and this, that kind of thing. 39% of the people that died on American roads in 2023 either did not have a real helmet on or they didn't have it properly attached. I don't like that thing under my neck. Okay, well then loosen it, but don't take it off. Almost 4 out of 10 people that died did so because they didn't have a real helmet. They could have had a novelty helmet. They could have had no helmet. Some states don't make you drive with a helmet. Okay, 26% of the people who died on American roads had something in their system that impaired their judgment. Is the only way I know to put it. 99% of the time it's alcohol. But it can also be prescription drugs. Okay, it was a few weeks ago, I decided that it was time for me to take that old rotten stump out from under the driveway. So I'm out there cranking on that stump and I tore my back up. Okay, so my back's hurting for the next couple of days and my wife says, oh, I got some leftover muscle relaxers. Oh, okay. And so they're not narcotic or anything like that. Okay. And on the bottle, it has a little label that says, do not use heavy equipment while using this drug. Have you ever seen that? And we all go, I don't even own a bulldozer. And we do whatever we're going to do. Well, a 600-pound motorcycle is a heavy piece of equipment, and so is a car. So for the 3 days that I took the muscle relaxers, and for about 3 days after that, I didn't ride my street bike at all. Did I feel funny? Did I feel weird? No. Could I tell that there was anything wrong? No. But go back to that day where the guy pulls out in front of me at 60 miles an hour, except this time, instead of It was, ooh, that 0.2 of a second. 0.2 of a second was 18 feet. That's the difference between me getting stopped and loading myself into his back seat through the window. Did I feel weird? Did I feel high? Did I feel a buzz? No. It doesn't take that. It takes 1/10 or 0.2 of a second of your reaction time away to sometimes mean the difference between crash and no crash. Now, alcohol is way worse than that. I'm not against alcohol. I'm just going to tell you that the biggest problem with alcohol is that it's a liar. So the more you drink, the better it tells you you are. Okay? And you have a beer and you go, I don't even feel a buzz. I think I'm good. Alcohol says, of course you're good. You can drive home. No big deal. But your reaction time is now 1 or 2/10 of a second slower than before. But I'm good. I don't even feel a buzz. I think I'll have a second. And then maybe a third. And then there comes a point in time when you've had enough alcohol and it's still telling you that you're okay. Matter of fact, you can not only drive, there's karaoke tonight. You can sing. Oh, you should sing. And dance? Oh, you can dance really good. You should do that. Because alcohol's a liar. And the more you drink, the more it lies. So be very, very, very careful with alcohol, because you will not be the one that can decide whether or not it's safe for you to go home. How many times have you had a friend who had too many, and you're trying to get his keys away, and he's like, no, you can't have my keys. I know exactly what I'm doing. He can barely walk, but he is still determined that alcohol has lied to him that he is okay to drive, because alcohol is a liar. Be careful. I don't care if it's prescription drugs or alcohol or whatever. We're talking about on a motorcycle when you need to be hyper vigilant and 100% alert and awake, that a muscle relaxer from the stump at your driveway can slow you down 0.2 of a second. And that's all it takes. So be very, very careful. 34% of the people that died did so because they were running from the cops, riding wheelies, or excessive speed, or any combination of excessive speed while running from the cops or whatever. Okay? So 1/3 of the people that died on motorcycles, 1/3 of the people that died on motorcycles were running from the cops or going too fast, riding wheelies on public streets. Okay? Now, why do I tell you all of that? Because everybody I know thinks motorcycles are just death machines. Oh, and you guys have probably heard this. Okay? The danger's up here. You're just going to die. I just don't know when, but you're going to die. It's so dangerous out there. Don't you even care about your family? I mean, don't you even care? Well, excuse me, but 50% of the time it's me. That brings it down to here. And then 39% of the time, I will always have a helmet on, so I'll take that 39% off. 26% of the time, I will not drink and I will not take drugs and ride my motorcycle, so that takes it down to here. And then the 34% that's left has to do with me riding fast, running from the cops. I'm not doing that. I will make a decision. I will stop and take the ticket before I take off. Am I saying that there's no risk in riding a motorcycle? Of course not. People die every day going to the grocery store in minivans to get milk. There's danger in life. What I'm saying is the danger that everybody thinks it is not true. It's not even accurate. And for those who take a class and know lane positioning and they know why they can't brake in a turn and they know not to drink or use it, people like you have a much, much higher success rate even than the average motorcycle rider, because you know to ride as if you're invisible. But not once in my 39 years has anybody come up to me and stuck a microphone in my face and said, Mr. Hart, legend has it you've ridden 39 years on the street and you've not died yet. Well, duh. But let me go 120 miles an hour with some chick on the back and hit a car that pulls out in front of me and we all die in a big ball of fire. Guess who gets front page in color? Yes. So all the people out there that are naysayers, that are so concerned, all they've ever heard are the horror stories. Well, okay. I don't want to be a horror story either. But I control that. And I control that. And I control that. And I control that. And I know that I'm invisible, so I don't have to worry about whether or not somebody can see me or they're going to pull out in front of me. I am going to react as if they're going to pull out in front of me, so I'm even taking personal responsibility for that. That's how we stay alive on the street. Lane position choices, driving as if we are invisible to everybody else, taking responsibility for our own actions and making sure that we're not pulling bonehead moves on streets so that if we crash, we hit something and that kind of, all of that is within our control. But the problem is, you can ride a street bike for years and never think about the slime line. You could ride for years and never think about lane position. You could never think about being in the tire tracks of the car. You could ride for years, and then all of a sudden something happens and you go, oh man, I should have known that. But we don't know what we don't know. That's the reason I admire you guys for taking a class like this and taking the extra time to understand the things that you may or may not have ever, you could have ridden for years and never really considered how important lane positioning is. Or you could ride a motorcycle for years just hoping that nobody pulls out in front of you, but not really knowing what to do about it. Now you do. That's the reason I think that this is so important. I want you guys to ride. I want you to ride often. I want you to have fun. I want you to love this sport as much as I love this sport. I just don't want any of you getting hurt because we taught you how to ride motorcycles. I don't want anybody getting hurt on a motorcycle, period. But especially not those of you that I've had through my class that I'm fond of and that kind of thing. So I don't want to just teach you how to manipulate the bike without teaching you how to control the bike around the dangers that are on the street. All right? Thank you.